It's me again, your science teacher, ready to tell you more exciting stuff about science. We're going to be looking at Chapter 11, The Environment, Change Over Time, Part 2. When I left you last, I was attempting to make a mold and a cast. And I can now turn it sideways so you can actually see it. And so the cornstarch hasn't gotten as dry as I would like it to. However, I think it's enough for it to work. So I'm going to turn it like this. I'm going to remove slowly, carefully, trying to remove the shell of science. And there, you have the mold and the cast. Now this isn't a perfect experiment, and really it's already starting to fill in, so I'm going to squish it back in there and let the cornstarch keep drying and hope it doesn't get all moldy like it did last time. And maybe the next time it'll come out and leave an impression. I don't know, but maybe. Okay, so I could use a rag of science. Doesn't matter. We've got things to do. All right, here's part 2 of this lesson. And when you left me last, we looked at the geologic time scale, and I took you up on the tour of the big long line up there. And so we said the next thing we're going to look at is mass extinctions. And it's pretty terrifying. You can see a couple of pterodactyls having the worst day of their life there as a giant 6-kilometer asteroid comes smashing down into an area near Chicxulub, Mexico. And this is the asteroid that caused the KT boundary, the Cretaceous-Tertiary boundary, and ended the reign of dinosaurs and brought in the age of mammals, which we're still sort of in. Okay, so there have been 5 mass extinctions in the past. Your book doesn't touch on the 5 very much more than to just show you this little graph. But, oh, we did that already. But the mass extinctions are, I think, really interesting and really important. So we're going to spend a little bit more time looking at them. I don't know why I'm standing over there, because I won't show up. I show up over here. Scientists now understand that the sudden disappearance of fossil in rock layers is evidence of extinction events. Extinction occurs when the last individual organism of the species dies. A mass extinction occurs when many species become extinct within a few million years or less. So that's your definition for a mass extinction. Let's take a look at some of the ones that have happened. Here's the chart that your book gives you, and we can see these ones. This one in the late Permian, you see how deep it goes? That was called the Great Dying, and that was the worst mass extinction in history. I'll give you some concrete numbers on that in a minute. This late Cretaceous one was the one that we just saw a picture of, but there have been these mass extinction events. Now, if I were you, and I was sitting out there on my couch or chair or just wherever you are staring at your phone watching this, which is the worst way. I really should be on the big screen. But however you're watching it, and if you're learning science, I'm happy and I'm proud of you. So however you're watching this, you have to wonder, well, what caused these mass extinctions? Okay, I'm not there yet. I'm ahead of myself. Before we look at that, I want to show you a really cool concept map. But keep that in the back of your mind. What caused the mass extinctions? This concept map is not one that you have to make, but it's one that I found that talks about extinction of species. That's all it's about. This word right here, which you probably can't see, it says the Great Dying. So it says in the past 540 million years, it shows these 5 different extinction events, and at the end of the Permian period is known as, look how good they are. They have the word in the box, they have the link not in the box, as the Great Dying took place 252 million years ago. 96% of marine species died, 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species died. So it was a big event. So anyway, really fascinating. chart, and if I think of it, I'll post it on Google Classroom so that you can look at it closely. It also has my favorite geologic time scale, which could also be useful to you. So I'll try to remember to do that. Okay, so what caused these extinction events? Primarily impact events and volcanism. Either meteors striking the Earth or volcanic activity or both were the things that did the greatest amount of damage to life on Earth. Now when we say damage, it's interesting because it was a horrible day for the dinosaurs when that asteroid struck. But for creatures like the Leptictidium that we met, it turned out to be a good day. Creatures like that had existed, but no mammal had gotten much bigger than, say, the size of a mouse. They lived during the Cretaceous time. They had to hide from the dinosaurs who would eat them kind of like snack food. I don't know, I wasn't there, but I just feel like that's what a dinosaur would do. With the dinosaurs gone, the mammals had a chance to expand and change and become the enormous things that exist now. The biggest mammal that ever existed lives in our time. It's the great blue whale. Okay, this chart's a little more clear and also shows the extinctions and gives some good information about them. I'll read to you about the Permian because it's the most exciting. 95% of all species, including marine animals, died, like Dimetrodon and a whole bunch of other things that are kind of hard to pronounce, and one that's easy to pronounce, trilobites. This is what took out the trilobites. And then the last, fifth mass extinction was the Cretaceous extinction. 76% of all species, including non-avian dinosaurs, bivalves, which are shellfish, and flying reptiles like petrosaurs. All of those things were taken out. Of course, we do believe that some of the dinosaurs survived and changed and became today's birds. Some people believe that we are in the sixth mass extinction right now. We are in a time called the Holocene, and if you take a look at this graph, this shows human population. Well, it shows population. It can be humans and anything else. The purple line is the population of humans, and it has been growing. The green line is extinctions, and so you use these numbers over here, and from 1800 to 2000, 50,000 species have gone extinct, mostly due to our impact. We're starting to change some of these things. We're starting to bring back creatures like the California condor. But in other cases, there's some species like the rhinoceros and even the elephant that are in great danger from kind of stupid things humans do. So we need to quit doing that. We need to protect these critters and not have a sixth mass extinction that's our fault. All right, then this gets us to biological evolution. Is the change over time in populations of related organisms. Charles Darwin developed a theory about how species evolve from other species. We'll read about this in the next lesson. But the thing to understand is that dying, it turns out, is actually one of the engines of evolution. So are these extinctions, which obviously result in dying. If the same species existed and kept existing, then there would never be any change. Well, the climate changes, the environment can change for other reasons, and this puts stresses on the animals that exist. The ones that can adapt and can make it through, they're the ones that survive and get to have offspring like them, and those characteristics move forward. And that's kind of the way evolution works. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of a beginning to get you thinking. To see some of the changes, back when we met the Leptictidium and started watching walking with prehistoric beasts, you met a small horse called Propaleotherium. And you probably aren't remembering the Propaleotherium, but when I remind you that the video, my favorite quote in the video is, "This is a world where birds eat horses." There was a giant bird called the Gastornis, and the poor little horses were about a little bit bigger than house cats, but that's it. And they were eating slightly fermented grapes, and you had tipsy horses. And the Gastornis rushed in and ate one of the little horses. That's here between 55 and 50 million years ago, and our Propaleotherium is related to this Hyracotherium, which is one of the ancestors of the horse. We can see changes that have happened in the hoof. Back then, while they did tend to stand on the center toe, they did not really have a hoof. They still had fingers. But over time, that center toe got stronger and stronger and turned into the hoof. The horse got bigger and faster, and partly this was due to climate change. The Propaleotherium was a creature that survived well, the little horse, survived well in the jungle and foraging on the forest floor for what was available. But as the climate dried out, the forest diminished and more grassland appeared. This creature is able to handle the grasslands very, very well. The ability to be up high and see, to eat the grass, and to run away from predators, and to exist in large herds. All of those things gave the horse an excellent chance of survival, and of course they're still around today.